Stronger.
Imagine a world without choices.
Stronger.
Imagine you can't make your own decision. That wouldn't be a world for me. That wouldn't be a world for you. UIC.
Tell them we're gonna be stronger. Together we can make it right. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. Gonna be stronger together. Time we all just unify. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. It is a natural right for every human being to be free. Free, so free. So the government is there to protect you and me. UIC objective is to liberate the citizens from colonial bondage, them regulation, them taxation. Rob Jamaica, we independent. Be stronger together we can make it right. Our purpose.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to another edition of UIC Liberty TV. This is Joseph Patterson, and tonight we're on the topic of MEK WI FIX Jamaica. Mountain View good now? So we're asking the question, is Mountain View okay now after many years of challenges and issues, primarily around the matter of crime and violence? We have one young man who has taken a brave step to show us another side of Mountain View, and we hope to have him on tonight very shortly, so we can talk about his experience and his views on where Mountain View is tonight or today. But in particular, we want to look at the whole issue of crime fighting in Jamaica, the problem of murders, excessive murders, high homicide rates, high murder rate relative to other countries in the world. And we want to talk about the government's approach to solving this problem. Jamaica has become a place of states of emergencies. So we want to see, are those states of emergencies effective? Are they doing a good job or not? So welcome to all of you who are on JMH. What's that now? Komodo, good to see you on, as well as Janet Chukanowski and Lion Rule the Jungle. You're always here with us. 1 second. I wonder what I'm missing here. I'm getting a call from the office that suggests something might be going wrong. Let me find out what that is before I go any further. Just a second. Let me see here. So I have in the studio with me tonight as well. 1 second. Hello, is there a problem? Hello? I'm on right now. So I'm here and this phone is here, but I'm also live at the moment. It's now 7:34. Okay. All right. Just log in directly and you should be there. All right. Thanks. All right, sorry about that. So where were we? Yes, so we're talking about Mountain View tonight, but not just Mountain View. We're using them as one piece of the puzzle, if you will, kind of looking at, a very volatile community that has shown some sign of promise, some sign of a little glimmer of hope. And I want to get the perspective of the gentleman in question. Before I jump into everything else, let me welcome my special guest tonight. Welcome, Miss Jasmine Powell. How are you?
Thank you, sir. I'm good.
Wonderful.
Happy to be here again.
Sorry, say that again.
I'm happy to be here again on the
Excellent.
platform.
I see Kay and Brown saying another Mountain Viewer in the house. So we have somebody from Mountain View watching. Welcome to all our friends and supporters and every Jamaican across the country and those living in Mountain View and those living outside of Jamaica. We have supporters in so many different countries, from Japan to Cayman Island to Switzerland, North America, other Caribbean countries, and so on. So good to have you all on. So, Ms. Powell, just before we get into things, could you warm us up a little bit by telling us what you know about tonight's story? What have you seen? Tell us the name of the gentleman. He's not here yet. I'm not sure when he's coming on. He should be here already. But what have you seen in this gentleman and his YouTube presentation that attracted you to the story that you want us to look at tonight?
Okay. I was actually on and I saw this video. I've never seen it before. So I based on the caption, it sparked my interest. So I decided to watch. I saw this young man live video. It was a live program doing a video at midnight in Mountain View and speaking about peaceful mountain views. The video was to showcase that even that time of night, persons could walk through and down Mountain View. You have a lot of different communities that you used to hear about in the news. And I saw passing those areas at that time of night. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes. I was impressed because it reminds me, I live in a community that has its challenges and violence ever so often. So when I saw that, it warmed my heart to see that happening there. What I did, I looked in the bio after the program and saw a number. So I called the person and just was having a discussion and community, so that is I came across WIFIX. Yes.
Welcome back, Ms. Powell. All right, for those of you who don't know, Ms. Jasmine Powell is our acting vice president for the county of Surrey, deputizing for Ms. Burke, who is on leave of absence for a little bit. But let us continue now to, I can't hear Ms. Powell, she's disconnected it seems. But let's continue. Well, I'm assuming you can hear me. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me? Am I the one that's not connected? Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Yes, I can hear you. Do I drop off a bit?
Well, maybe I'm the one that's not connected. Okay, so you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Erland
No.
Malcolm. All right, so it's good. Okay, it's good you can hear me. I'm not hearing Miss Powell, and I think she appears to be frozen.
I am hearing you, Mr. Pat.
All right, so let's continue. I want to show you Mountain View 5 years ago, Mountain View 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and then we can talk about what's going on there today. So let's see if we can bring that in now. I'll begin by showing you what's going on there 5 years ago, and then we can look at the situation as it is today. Just a second. Let's try this. 1 second here. All right. Okay, let's take a look at this and see if this gives us the information we need here. Okay, it's a bit jumbled on my screen at the moment. Not sure why, but let's give this a shot and see if this brings us. This looks like 2019. No, so what we want is this guy here. Let's try that again. Oh, so the technology is failing us tonight, it seems. We're having a hard time getting our things here to show. All right, here we go. Let's try this now. Yeah, it's not coming in. Yeah, my friends, it looks like we're having some serious technical challenges here. Not sure why. I have lost control of my screen. I can't select anything or move anything around. Yeah, everything is frozen here. I'm going to try to refresh now and see if that works. All right, looks like we're back. Welcome back, everyone. I see Mr. Wayne Family TV in the waiting room, so I'll try to bring him in shortly. But let's take care of a few dating site problems I see popping up here. Boy, we're under a lot of attacking. Everywhere you turn. Miss Paul, you can hear me, right?
Are you able to?
Yes, I can hear you now. We lost connection there for a bit. What's the name of the gentleman again that we're seeing tonight? I know his show is called Wayne Family TV, but what's his name? O'Neill Gordon. Okay, so Mr. O'Neill Gordon. Let me see if I can get him in now. Your connection is very bad, Miss Powell. Mr. Gordon, can you hear us? Mr. Gordon, can you hear us? Mr. Gordon, can you hear us? We can see you, but we can't hear you. Mr. Gordon, can you hear us? Mr. Gordon, can you hear us, sir? He's trying to set up his things, but he's not hearing us or seeing us at the moment, it appears. All right, so we'll come back to Mr. Gordon in a bit. So what I want to do now, if I can succeed at that, is to show you some excerpts of life in Mountain View 5 years ago, and then 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and present. So I want to show you that. Let's begin. Let me see if I can do that now. Did that work? Let's see. Yes, we have some visual there. So let's take a listen and hear and watch this and see what was happening 5 years ago in Mountain View. All right, there.
We begin this with a primetime news follow-up. More trouble in Mountain View Avenue in southeast St. Andrew, where several persons have been killed in a recent flare of violence between the nearby communities of Goodridge Lane and the Jakes Road. Today, the people of Goodridge Lane took to the streets to voice their frustration with what's been happening. In the meantime, the police are also assuring residents that they, along with the military, will remain in the area until the violence is brought under control. TVJ's Krista Campbell reports.
Signs of frustration spilled over onto Mountain View Avenue on Boxing Day. The residents of Goodrich Lane off Mountain View upset over the latest eruption of violence said to be the result of a dispute over a construction project in the area. The incident has shattered years of peace in an area known for decades of violent uprisings. The latest warfare between residents of Goodrich Lane and Jakes Road, another community off Mountain View Avenue. And caught in the middle are residents who say they have nothing to do with the conflict and just want peace to continue. Several persons have been killed so far, and the police have had to increase patrols and monitor traffic flow in the area over the past few days. Under the cover of anonymity, residents of Goodrich Lane voiced their concerns.
Sleepless nights, both for adults and children. Persons can't go to work. I'm a working person, and I could not even go to work yesterday. I could not go to work last night because it's nights I work, and I am not going to know that I am at work and the place is tense and I leave my children here go to work. I was in the house last night or early into this morning, and I was awoke by my child. She came in the room screaming, crying, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, I'm scared. Can I sleep with you?" And she had to stay in the room. We're tired of the foolishness. The children were supposed to have their treat yesterday, and because of this, no treat was kept.
I went to the shop. When I was coming back, me and my friend, we had stopped. Only thing we see is shots start firing at us. One got shot in his foot because they missed. A girl got shot at the bus stop, and it's just not good because I had to be running from the guys, 2 guys, and I had to be running from them with my baby in my hand.
The people say it's their third protest and they will continue their stance until their concerns are addressed. The Peace Management Initiative, PMI, says it has been responding to the violence in Mountain View. PMI Executive Director Damien Hutchinson says a team will be going into the area by tomorrow.
Well, the PMI has started to engage key community leaders across the community and stakeholders around the current incidents. The violence has escalated now over the past 4 or so weeks. We have identified persons who have already been injured and started to treat with them. And as I said, been having conversations with persons who believe can help to normalize the community again.
Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
Okay, so this is for 5 years ago. We're talking about 2017. So that news was from December 2017. As you can see, it was quite volatile. People were scared to death for their lives. Mothers with children, ordinary citizens, not being able to go about their normal business with a sense of normalcy. So that was 5 years ago, 2017. Now let's take a look at the community, say 3 years ago, and see what that was looking like. So 3 years ago, 2019, we're going to look at, and see how much have changed, if anything, between 2017 and 2019. So let's have a look at that now. Again, hopefully I can find the clip easily. Here we go.
A tense calm prevails in Mountain View, St. Andrew, as warring gangs have been on a shooting rampage which escalated last evening. As TVJ's Anthony Love reports, frustrated questioning whether the police are capable of bringing the violence under control.
On Friday morning, motorists traveling along Mountain View Avenue in St. Andrew were being redirected by the police. The reason? Rival gangs from Jakes Road and Goodrich Lane trading bullets. This shootout was triggered by the killing of a resident of Goodrich Lane shortly after 8 Thursday evening. He has been identified as Bobby Perry, also known as Bojo. When we visited the area, there was increased security presence and residents were tight-lipped. One lady who did not wish to appear on camera spoke with our news team.
About 5 weeks now, we live with them. I come down pan Byron Road and a fire shot down pan Goodies Lane. And look how far Byron Road, Goodies Lane is from Jakes Road.
Residents of Jakes Road, however, pointed fingers in the opposite direction. But what caused the flare-up? The police have revealed that the violence is linked to a disagreement involving men working on a housing development in the area. Head of the East Kingston Police Superintendent Victor Hamilton says men from Jakes Road and Goodrich Lane accused each other of stealing work material from the site.
We made intervention. I went to the area personally, spoke to persons, and the following day, the plyboards were returned. I felt certainly, that though there were tensions, that the return of the plyboards would see the resumption of work. And in fact, work resumed on a minimal scale. But then it would appear as if persons weren't satisfied with just the plyboards being returned.
So it's not clear what it will take to bring the ongoing feud between the two gangs under control. There have been several interventions by the security forces, and now there's increased police and military presence. What's clear, however, is that the residents in these communities are desperately calling for it to stop.
We're tired of it. I'm not trouble with pressure. Now I have pressure. And because of them. My son can't go to school.
Talk to me about how your kids reacting to all.
They're traumatized. Me have one little baby, 1-year-old baby down there. And when they shot them start for him, jump out of time, sleep on a ball.
With both communities now on edge, residents from both sides have questioned whether the police are capable of bringing the violence under control.
Want to reassure the residents that the security forces combined can and will bring peace and stability to their communities.
Yeah, quite a promise to make there, a promise that they have not been able to keep. So we looked at 5 years ago, 3 years ago, pretty much seemed to be the same. Nothing much has changed between 5 years prior and 3 years into that 5-year period, 2019. Now we're going to look at a year ago. Let's look at, what has happened. Let's try, before we do that, let's look at a year ago, just 1 year ago, September 2021. We're going to take a look at September 2021, just 1 minute. It's a 1-minute video. And that will give us some recent perspective, at least 1 year ago. And we can then listen to the gentleman that we're going to where is it now? Sorry, kind of jumped off my screen here. And then we'll listen to Mr. Gordon as he shares with us what he has been experiencing in recent times. 1 second here. Let's share this now. A quick 1-minute video on what's happening in that community a year ago.
This bullet hole is evidence of the brace carried out yesterday as persons were playing dominoes over at this table here. Two were injured, and the two was a 15-year-old. On Monday afternoon, residents gathered around this table enjoying a spirited game of dominoes when suddenly men entered a section of the community and fired several rounds in the area. A 15-year-old boy was shot and injured along with another person. Both were rushed to the Kingston Public Hospital. The mother of the injured teen recalled the ordeal.
I was in my home, in my house, eating my dinner when I hear the barrage of gunshot, and I run out, run round by the church and go up big yard. And some people tell me, say, your son get shot. And I run up Mountain View, go see him sitting down on the roadside bleeding out.
Meanwhile, in another section of the community, another man was killed early Tuesday morning. This has rocked the community, as residents say he was a decent and hard-working individual. His father says this is the first time someone has died on his lane, once considered peaceful.
I am born. I'm not going for no come so. I am born and grow. I'm a picnic, I'm a last baby. I'm a last baby. last grass belly. You see it? I Thursday me bury mother. Thursday we bury mother. No me alone we bury mother. I'm sorry, I'm killing this man here, so. They're going to kill this man here, so.
Residents are fearful and are calling for heightened police presence in the community. In the meantime, the Kingston East Police say the ongoing feud in the Burger Gully area has been a long-standing issue. Investigations are ongoing. Johnny McLean, CBM Live.
You could hear the pain in that father's voice, and you could hear the pain in the mother that spoke. And you can just imagine having your baby in an environment like that, the stress and tension being caused. Imagine even a pregnant mother, what kind of emotional trauma she will transmit to that unborn child. And then this child comes out into the world, into that community, and have to grow up in that community and deal with all of these issues. But let me welcome now Mr. Gordon. Mr. Gordon, welcome, sir. Good night. Can you hear me, Mr. O'Neill Gordon? Can you hear me, sir? Mr. Gordon, can you hear me? It looked like he's still having some difficulties there. Let me welcome back Miss Powell. Miss Powell, what were your thoughts on when you were watching that video? You're in well, you have experience in a similar community, I believe, with similar challenges to Mountain View. Is that correct, Ms. Powell?
It is correct, sir.
Yes. What can you tell us about the life in such a community where there's always this kind of volatility, gang warfare and feuds among people? How does one cope in such a society, such an environment?
Wow. Cope. It's not easy. You know, you're so traumatized at times, emotionally, you're so drained. You're so drained. You know, whenever somehow it, based on your mountain is coming from, bring me back to my community and what is happening. Right, still kind of things, but a little better than before. But it still is, you know, it's not easy living in communities like this. You have to be mentally strong. You know, you have to be mentally.
As you watch that video, did you see similarities? Oh, sorry. As you watch that video, did you see similarities between Augusttown that you're familiar with and Mountain View? Do you see a lot of similarities there?
Yes, a lot of similarities, because sometimes we will be in the area when it's everything seems like it's alright, then suddenly you just see it. You know, just nice when you have to come out for your bed, lie down and go under the bed. A lot of people, I mean, adults, because when you hear, you know, the body just get nervous and you just stop. You know, for yourself, it's terrible. It's terrible.
So it's like living in a war zone, isn't it? Because you can't be comfortable. You have to be on edge at all times. As soon as you hear something outside, like a gunshot or whatever, your body shakes and you have to adjust. I remember this, you know, because when I used to live with my grandmother, I spent holidays with her, summer holiday, and we lived in a community, Blake Road and Beeston Street area, you know, downtown Kingston. And, you know, every so often you have gunfire, people from one lane and another lane, gangs coming and meeting and fighting. police driving through, sometimes police having shootouts with them, you know, and it's so unsettling. I remember as a child growing up, it keeps you on edge. My grandmother was always anxious and always, you know, she had a shop on the corner, and to lock up the shop at night was such a tense moment. You know, you have to carefully plan and look out through this window and look out through that window and scout the area carefully before you run out and quickly close up the doors and put on the bars. And it was such a anxious and debilitating experience. I mean, she was an amazing woman to have survived all of that and run a successful grocery shop on the corner. But, you know, it just made her life much harder. And it also caused the shop to have to close early. So persons who would have probably come after 6 o'clock and buy a little grocery, you know, as soon as it started to get shades of dark, she have to lock up the shop. So those persons who come home late from work couldn't get. Is that the kind of experience you still see happening in some of your communities, or it has improved somewhat?
The improvement on the last period of time, and then it will go back to square one. You know, it's not easy because even on a normal day, here, you like you will jump out of your clothes because, you know, you just get so panicky and frightened, wonder, you know, because it's not like that. You know, it's really terrible. There are days when, you know, the recent now for the past month, but there have been days, you know, sometimes you don't see, you know, the middle day, you don't see a store on the road. Then, you know, we study the community, so you know, when you see now, you say, no man, something I'm not good on or something wrong. You know, shop like from a 5 o'clock. When things really bad.
Up now.
I
saw
this happen. It looked like we have Mr. Gordon with us now. Mr. Gordon? Mr. Gordon,
hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hearing you now. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. Hold on a second. Wow. My apologies here. Okay. Mr. Gordon, finally, sir. Good to have you on. I want to play a little clip of your video that you did in Mountain View. I'm wondering if the staff backstage can take the time for us now, so we can see a little piece of your video. I won't show the whole thing. I just want to show the first 3 minutes, about 30 seconds in.
Yeah, show as much as you want, man.
I don't want you to talk about it, but I want everybody to see a little bit of it first, and then we can go from there. So go ahead and run the clip for me, please, in full screen mode, so we can see it here. Okay, hopefully it's going to come up soon. All right, so let's take a watch. I'm not hearing anything. All right, so we didn't succeed there. All right, Mr. Gordon, let's talk about it. We're not doing so well on the video. Tell us what your video was about. Tell us I watched it, and I will direct people to it. It's your channel is called Wayne. Say it again. Tell us the channel again. Tell us where the channel for your show. Tell us the channel for your show, please. Well, we're having one heap of hard time today, man. Mr. Gordon, what is the channel for your show? Wayne what?
TV.
Wayne Family TV. All right. And tell us, why did you do that show on Mountain View? Why did you do that program on Mountain View? What led you to do that?
Well, what really happened is at first, it started from me and my wife always. I watch the YouTube, social media, but each time you notice they go on it, they always just some crime happening in Jamaica we are recommended, several of them. But each time we see them, we see the type the crime, and we always say, why as bad as thing may be, type of things so we see them show say happen on TV in some other areas where I say, why as bad as thing may be, not Mountain View, we always are saying that. Until me and I end up coming with a talk and I say, oh, for a good while the place are nice and we see how them a try put back everything together. Now we find out say all of a business place start to open up on the main people at the development to fix up them place and all, cause everybody are getting back comfortable now because them say it's a general it a governed now by people with sense or people with meaning. You understand? So I saw the whole thing it come on now. So I said, so one night now, I walk go up at the shop where you see the video stop where I turn back. Go buy something. In the night from down where I leave from. I say one time you couldn't walk from down, you say go way up this up. So I say, so I go flag it. So I start to walk now and I flag it at the same time and show them say, as bad as thing may be and so, you have other places in Jamaica too, in a way. It must just like how the media make it sound. You understand? Like if you listen to the media and you get fear of Jamaica, like it's a place where you can't come, like anywhere you go, you're liable to dead, So they make it sound like a fear of mad people. But you have all the places in a Jamaica, man, where the people are try to live up and try to take back Jamaica from the violence and the crime and I try to live up, you know what I mean?
Right. So can you say, are you saying that Mountain View is safer today than it was a year ago?
It is safer today than it was 1 year ago, yes.
Okay. And what do you think is the reason why it's safer today than it was 1 year ago?
Well, mainly to the most likely to have to do with the leadership. Because our ghetto stay already. Every ghetto have them here leader or what them call them Dan.
Yeah.
So it all have to lead back to the Dan because no matter how the youth them don't really want to do something and mash up the place, it always come from the Dan. So if you have good leadership, then you have good community. So you find out say each are the joining community in a Mountain View. It seems like them have some respective leader now where I try to deal with situation in a different way. So if something will pop up, them try a meeting and talk about it and try to make sure say dealing in other ways than just gun blazing and innocent people bedding and the children can't go to school and them like away, you know what I mean?
Right. So the dons from the respective areas seem to have come together and form a truce.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what I noticed in your video, when you were walking, you were able to walk through different communities where before persons were not able to walk from one community into the next community. Tell me some more about that.
Yeah. Them three communities that be like the most three community in Mountain View. Whenever I hear Mountain View flare up, and basically those communities. You understand? Between Jarrett Lane to 63 Jakes Road, Backbush, Goodrich Lane. And more in other area there, Mountain View, when you hear it flare up certain way, within those areas. You know what I mean? So one time, you used to have border, so who live down there, so stay there, so who live in the middle, stay in the middle, and who live up at the top, stay at the top. But like that, they were trying to fix it and try to break. Because it was like this already, But true, everything change up and then things just get out of hand again. But it seems like the real people them coming back now and stand up and have them community now. The people them will love it. You understand? So them don't want it to mash up, them want it to uplift. Because if you notice in the show, you them have a car mart and a 2 car mart, 3 car mart within those vicinity where you hear me call out. Within those areas, you have 3 car mart right now where them are doing them business. You have mechanics come out on the front. You have auto shop come out with wheel alignment and all them little way there, you know. Everybody and even people, even if you check Giant Lane, they are trying to develop GX Road 63. Everybody are trying to build up them place now, you know, because they work on a one accord, you know.
Okay, okay. All right, so it looked like the sheriff in town is improving things. Do you live in the community?
Huh?
Do you live in the community?
If we live there?
Yeah,
Yeah, man, I'm from GX Road.
Okay, okay. So you have lived through this. How many years now have you been living there?
Yeah, I'm living in the community. So me sure so one time we couldn't do that. We couldn't get up in the hours of night about after 12.
How long?
I walk from G. Huh?
How long now you live there?
How long? I'm born and grow here.
All right, all right. So you know the thing from left, right, and center. Left,
Yeah,
right,
man.
and
Foundation.
Okay, okay. So how can we keep it? How can we keep it that way? How can we keep it? You know, and by that way I mean safe. I'm talking about the safety side.
Repeat.
Yeah. How can we keep it?
Repeat.
What can we do to keep the community safe? What do you recommend to keep it safe?
Yeah, break up. I'm not hearing this.
All right. I'm asking what can we do to keep that community safe? How can we make sure it don't go back to what it was before?
They can make sure it don't come back to certain level. Well, basically, if it not come up to certain level, it'll be like what them are doing now. Because certain people will build up the business, them and them thing there, like even Jalika Valley, you have a nice jerk center and Mountain View, them can check it out, and a little sport bar and jerk center every Friday, they go on like karaoke thing the same way, you know, Jalika Valley, jerk pit.
Right. All right.
Yeah, so you find out say some of the people them would be like the up people, them are developed. So in order for them things to crash, them have to try to keep it on a level, you know?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I get it now. I get it. So you're saying it has to be a community-led initiative where those who are running business and stuff get together and
the big man them.
Yeah, the big man.
Yeah, big man them. The big man them where them have build up the thing. So most likely them now build up where them want to mash up. So that's why them are try to work on a one card to try uplift the place. I know more a little tourist attraction place at the highway from Mountain View, from airport. So you know, when you touch Mountain View should have been at a level. When you touch Mountain View and I come up, you have to stop and buy a Bob Marley shirt, same like Coachy. But through crime and violence and politics over the years, that's how wreck it. Because you know, originally Mountain View, GX Road was residential area, you know what I mean? Yeah. My parents live here from it's a residential area, you know, when a man used to ride on a donkey cart and put milk, fresh squeezed cow milk, hot bread for your gate column and just go away. And then when him come back for collect back the buckle now, him collect the money. And so every I think it was I think it was Monday, every Monday morning or Tuesday morning, him come through with the donkey cart and him put on a buckle of milk for your column, for your gate column. And so from them time there, we there, you know. You wake up, you take up your.
How old are you now?
Huh?
How old are you now?
44.
Okay.
45. 44 going 45.
45 years of history. Excellent.
Yeah.
So 45
born and raised,
born and raised in a Mountain View area here. So all right. Well, thank you, Mr. Gordon. We really appreciate your feedback, and we will come monitor Mountain View. In fact, I'm going to come down there and do a walkthrough myself so I can witness some of what you're talking about. So look out for a call. Here?
Yeah, but whenever they link me up, man, I'm made to it, man.
Excellent. Will do. Take care. All the best.
All right. Yeah, my blessing and love.
Bless up. Respect. All right.
Yes.
So there you have it. From somebody live and direct on the ground in Mountain View, Mr. Oliver Gordon, telling us how Mountain View has transitioned. Now, what is interesting, it does not appear as if it's the state of emergencies and the heavy police presence that has created O'Neill Gordon, that has created the bit of transformation that he has seen. It is really community-led. And, unfortunately, it is led by persons who may be considered dons in the community. So you have different kind of dons. You have some dons that might be more violent than others, some don who control the area better than others. That's the impression I'm getting. That's what I'm understanding. So it doesn't appear to be that it is something that is coming out of the national leadership and the management of our country and resources, but something that is coming from the bowels of the people in a strange kind of way. Now, somebody mentioned in the chat that they don't want that kind of solution, the done arrangement and so on. What they want is something that's more civil. We also want to make sure that whatever peace is reached, it is more permanent than temporary. What do you say to that, Miss Powell?
I just want to share an incident that Mr. Thomas shared with me, and I don't remember if it was in the video. There was an incident sometime ago where was told someone up by the gas station on that road for downtown Mountain View, right at the gas station, with the bus coming, the car would go Mountain View, and the phone was stolen from a young lady, and it was out that a particular young man stole the phone, and he had to return the phone, and the person who stole it from coincidentally lived in Mountain View, and it was found out that he stole the phone, and it was given back to the owner. And that young man, his punishment was he had to sweep the road every morning, get up and sweep the street. So that yes. So based upon what is happening there, they have ways to deal with certain things for with certain without any violent measure. So for people to live or never lived in communities like this, it would be difficult for them to understand, because when about persons leading, you have a leader or a so-called gunman. It can be somebody within the community that is well respected, very well respected. Yes, so that I experienced that.
All right. Well, thank you for that perspective, Ms. Powell. Unfortunately, your audio is very choppy, so we're not able to hear everything, but I got the gist of what you were saying. And I'll just repeat for the sake of our listeners. You said there are some people in the community who are area leaders. They're not necessarily gunmen. They're just persons who have earned the respect of the community, and they're able to sometimes organize justice that is outside of the regular norms of justice. So, for example, the gentleman you said, or young person who stole the phone, and they arranged and got him to bring back the phone, and then the punishment was for him to sweep the street every day for a certain period of time, and so on. So you have those kind of restorative justice that takes place in the community, and local decision making about the justice, and it works out. So I understand, and that actually has some amount of credence in the African heritage as to how we used to solve problems as a race and as a people. So we can learn from that, and we should encourage some level of community. In fact, a lot of levels of community engagement and so on. But still, it does not absolve the reason we have government is to make sure that it is taking care of the justice and police and cleanliness and certain policies that would guide and shape the nation. So what I want to do now in this segment, I want to just look at what a state of emergency is. And then we're going to look at how effective the SOEs have been in Jamaica so far, and ask ourselves the question if this is the approach that we really need for so-called crime fighting. How effective is it? But first, let us just take a look at what is a state of emergency. And for this, I'm going to read from this newspaper article here that you're seeing on screen, and give you a flavor for how the Gleaner defines us what a state of emergency is. I hope you can see it. Well, you won't see it fully, but it says here, what's a state of emergency? Things you should know. And this article was published by the editor of the Gleaner on January 18, 2018. You might recall it's just around 1718 that the Prime Minister started to give us a whole proliferation of SOEs as the strategy for fighting crime. So it says here, Prime Minister Andrew Holness this afternoon declared a state of public emergency for the parish of St. James. It's in response to rampant criminality, including murders and shooting in the parish. Last year, St. James recorded 335 murders, the highest ever total, and since the start of the year, murders and shootings have continued. Here are some facts you should know. What is a state of emergency? Section 26 of the Constitution explains a period of public emergency as any period during which A, Jamaica is engaged in any war, B, there is in force a proclamation by the Governor General declaring that a state of public emergency exists, or C, there is in force a resolution of each house supported by the votes of a majority of all the members of that house declaring that democratic institutions in Jamaica are threatened by subversion. When can it be declared? When a state of war between Jamaica and a foreign state is imminent, that's one reason. Two, as a result of the occurrence of any earthquake, hurricane, flood, fire, outbreak of pestilence, outbreak of infectious disease, or other calamity. Three, when action has been taken or is immediately threatened by any person on such an extensive scale, it could likely endanger the public safety or deprive the community or any substantial portion of the community of supplies or services essential to life. What does it mean? One, extraordinary powers have been to the security forces. Two, some rights have been suspended. Three, members of the security forces may search places without a warrant. Duration. The proclamation shall remain in force for a period of 1 month unless extended by the House of Representatives or revoked. Now, the history of state of emergency in Jamaica. First was October 1966, a state of emergency in West Kingston due to violence. Again, June 1976, 10 years later, a state of public emergency again due to violence. Third, September 2004, a state of emergency after Hurricane Ivan. And again in May 2010, in advance of the attempt to arrest Christopher Dudas Coke on an extradition warrant. So prior to the current Prime Minister, we have only had 4 states of emergencies. I'm no longer reading from the article, but prior to the Prime Minister, there have been only 4 states of emergencies. Yeah. And so since the Prime Minister, we have had a great deal of states of emergencies being passed. Now, what are the impact? What is the impact of those states of emergencies? I want to share with you a bit, of that. What are some of the impacts when you do have a state, a public state of emergency declared? And I'm going to read for you again from the Gleaner how they define one of the impact, which is detentions, and probably unfair detentions. In fact, that is what this particular article refers to. Unfair detention, thousands locked up under SOE, but only 5% charged, mainly for minor offenses. Yeah, so I'm going to read this article for you to give you a flavor for how the states of emergencies have been working in Jamaica so far. The article appeared in the Monday edition, July 2nd, 2018, and the authors are Laverne Barrett, and that person is a senior Gleaner writer. 2,500 people have been rounded up and taken into custody in James alone in the 6 months since the parish was blanketed by a state of public emergency. But only about 5% of those detained were charged, mainly with minor criminal offenses, official statistics obtained by the Gleaner have revealed. A total of 2,672 persons, predominantly young men from inner city communities, have been taken into custody since January 18, when the security forces were given extraordinary powers to tackle crime in St. James. But according to the data, only 138 of those detainees have been charged with offenses ranging from murder and illegal gun possession to using indecent language, disorderly conduct, and exposing goods for sale. Interesting. The disparity in the figures has reignited criticisms about the perceived arbitrary detention of citizens, with residents in some St. James communities accusing the security forces of using extraordinary powers to destroy the lives of innocent young people. Further, some residents have questioned the intelligence reports the security forces are relying on to guide their operations. When them come into the community, them just scrape up everybody and gone. It is torture, said one woman whose son was briefly detained. We're not saying bands not in the community, flankers that is, but there are decent law-abiding persons there as well, another resident complained. Roger Malcolm, Executive Director of Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, expressed concern about this type of dragnet, wide-scale, untargeted, and unnecessary detention of people who commit no crime but simply fit a profile. It doesn't help anyone when those with power use it abusively and alienate persons in the process, said Malcolm, who made it clear he was in full support of the anti-crime initiative. Assistant Commissioner Elan Powell, the police commander for the state of public emergency, declined to comment on the figures. Quote, whatever numbers you have, you have. I am not commenting on that, he told the Gleaner yesterday. A breakdown of the figures obtained by the Gleaner showed that 15 persons were charged with murder, 11 for shooting with intent and or illegal possession of firearm. 40 were arrested on outstanding warrants. 5 persons were arrested on lottery scam-related charges, while 7 persons were arrested for suspected involvement in human trafficking or child pornography. Among the charges filed remaining detainees are breaches of the Petroleum Act, using indecent language, disorderly conduct, breaches of the Main Road Act, exposing goods for sale, simple larceny, and breach of bail condition. Quote, why you need a state of emergency to arrest a man for exposing goods for sale? One fumed. Isaac Buchanan, staff attorney at JFK, charged too that the Human Rights Lobby has seen cases where persons have been detained for 2 weeks, released without charge, then detained again for another 2 weeks period. We have secured the release of all those persons. We shudder to think how many other law-abiding Jamaicans remain in lockup simply because they did not have legal representation, Buchanan said. Yeah, there you have it. This is how a state of emergency works. Now, when you use that as a regular crime fighting tool, one, you lose the value of what a state of emergency is for, because you're now using it willy-nilly. But let's say for a moment that I guess crime is at an epidemic level, and so you do need a state of emergency to address that epidemic level. But hold on, you want to tell me that crime and violence in Jamaica is largely driven by young boys on the street in depressed communities? So the aim is to get rid of all those young boys in those depressed communities by going in there, scooping them up, keeping them in lockups for 2 weeks at a time, and having gone through maybe 5% of them of some minor offenses. But what would you have done to their livelihood, whatever they were doing? Let's say they had a little job at Juicy Beef, or at a gas station, or at a laundromat, wherever it is, whatever they were doing that was gainful employment. You have now destroyed that, and you have now made them, more aggressive towards society, more aggressive towards the state, because now you have violated their fundamental rights. Why not have something more community-based, more social intervention-based, that really gets to know the people and understand what's going on, and do some of what some of the community leaders, area leaders have done that Ms. Powell spoke about earlier on. Instead, they have chosen this very aggressive approach, which has not worked. And I'll tell you why I know it hasn't worked. I want you to look at the statistics, the crime statistics since 2016 all the way to 2022. And I'm going to show you that it has not worked. But before we look at that, I want you to reflect on the state of public emergency by watching this video and having that inform your thoughts before we go into the next segment of our program. Let's take a watch.
Tonight we are joined by attorney at law Isaac Buchanan and criminologist Dr. Jason McKay for their reaction and reflections on the recently called state of public emergency, as well as the Prime Minister gangs attempting to influence the state and security force recruitment. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you both for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
So let me start with you, Dr. McKay, as a criminologist, right? Already 48 hours into the state of public emergency, we have seen where in St. James a double murder occurred Wednesday night, last night. So what do you make of the latest round of announcements?
Well, it's going to certainly increase the amount of operational activity that's taking place, and it's going to give the security forces powers of remand that go beyond the normal, allowed by law. So I think it's going to slow the rate, and it's going to save some people's lives, and that's really what's important. If it even saves one life, you know, that's important. As it relates to the double murder, there's nothing to say that because you have a state of emergency, you're going to have no murders in the space. What is expected is you're going to have less murders during the period of time that the state of emergency is happening.
It's interesting you hold that view. Let me talk to you, Isaac, because some would say, as actually the JFJ head today said, that it does not instill confidence, especially so soon after a state of emergency announced and a double murder has occurred.
Certainly it doesn't. It only bolsters the point that some persons are of the view, I am one of them, that state of emergency is not a crime-fighting tool, and the manner in which it is called at this particular time, especially after the court, there is no issue that the court in Everton Douglas did find that the conditions to call a state of emergency was not in existence the last time. And certainly, as it is this time around, no, you could not have looked out your window and say there is a state of emergency, and there's some clarity within the law that needs to be respected before we go in there. So it will become the laughingstock of certainly this administration by its use and the double murder that took place.
But speaking, as you mentioned, that in terms of, well, last night we actually had the opposition spokesperson on national security, Peter Bunting, and he, of course, was talking about the unconstitutionality of the state of emergency. But the current Attorney General has said that it is in fact in the Constitution. So is something wrong with using the state of emergency then as a crime-fighting tool?
No, so I can answer that. The Privy Council, let's not even just talk about what the opposition spokesperson would have said. The Privy Council have already set out guidelines in terms of when you should call a state of emergency. They have actually painted a picture to say that if it is that the courts aren't being burnt and court can be in session, you don't have a state of emergency. And as you know, as it is now, our courts are operating fine. The country is operating fine. The only thing that the state of emergency is doing now, other than what Zozo does, is suspending the Constitution, allowing a normal constable to use his discretion to say you probably are about to commit a crime, and so I can detain you for 48 hours, go to a superintendent and extend it 7 days, 7 days, 7 days, up to 6 weeks. That's 42 days of somebody's life, and the government won't have to pay them for it.
I'm seeing the reaction on Dr. McKay's face, not looking too pleased.
That is a misrepresentation at every level.
No, I object to that.
Everything about it. There's nowhere in the ruling.
All right, let me hear Dr. McKay.
I allowed you to babble.
Go ahead.
There's nowhere in the ruling that he's speaking about the Privy Council. They say the courts have to be burning. So nothing is like that.
Have you read Liverside? I advise you to read Liverside.
Let Dr. McKay complete.
I'm not babbling, I'm speaking about the law. I reject that.
Okay, so whatever you're doing, I allowed you to.
Ad hominem. Ad hominem.
All right, gentlemen.
The point I'm saying is that that is not the case. The Privy Council did outline how you go about calling the state of emergency, and to my knowledge it has been adjusted about how you go about doing it. You don't need total and complete mayhem to call a state of emergency. You just need to have a requirement for it. It's an emergency tool. We are now 82 murders higher than we were last year this time. So, and probably by ISAT standards, that's not a big deal, but that's a big deal if you happen to be one of the victims of those murders or the family of the victim of those murders. Now, this state of emergency, whether JFJ or ISAT likes it, will save some lives. If it's even one life, it will save a life. Therefore, it's worth it.
But Isaac, your reaction, because as he mentioned, of course, the state of emergency, it's a necessary tool given the level of criminality in Jamaica.
I'm going to say this.
That's what he's saying.
It is not a tool.
Okay.
And we must appreciate that. And the Constitution never contemplated it to be a crime-fighting tool. If it is that you do not know how to fight crime and you do not know what to do, then there's a way to resolve that. And that is done at the poll. But it cannot be a political tool, nor it is actually offensive to even invite the opposition to conduct something that breaches the rule of law. a question not unanswered by our judicial system, because it is this government that has the Everton Douglas matter in the Court of Appeal. So until the Court of Appeal rules on that, the judges are who is to be respected. They are the custos morum of the Constitution. This is not a debate. It's not about what ISAT likes. When I was complaining in 2018 and everybody said, shut up ISAT, I went to court. And we got a judgment, and the judgment was in our favor about the state of emergencies, and it's clear in the judgment. JFJ puts out a press release, and it shows you the conditions for a state of emergency within the Everton Douglas. And that was it. You can't just ignore that. So when you invite the opposition after 14 days and you go in Parliament, there are some questions that needs to be answered. We need to know how much money was spent the last time. We need to know how much money is being spent this time. We need to know how taxpayers' money is being spent. And when you come to fighting crime, there are judges that sit in the parish court that you want to invite to night court and you're not paying properly. If you pay the judges and you pay the police officers with the resources that we have, you can begin to fight crime. We know that social intervention is important. And so when we talk about the right to life, let me tell you something, there's nothing called collective rights in the Constitution. And we don't have to debate that. So I'm just making that clear that anybody that wants to feel how they feel, the Constitution is the done of all done. No, nothing else.
Dr. McKay, is there another strategy? For example, the zones of special operations are there. What about using
the zones of special operations are great, you know, don't get me wrong. I really think a lot of them, I think they've been very extremely successful, but it's probably not that easy to make the zone of special operation be a tool that you could apply across the entire island. It's not created like that. There are similarities in the powers, but the state of public emergency is an emergency measure. If you look on the parishes where it is going to be utilized for the 14 or 6 weeks it is going to do, depending on how long it's going to hold, and then you look on the period in those very same parishes, how much murder took place in the time period before versus how much murders are taking place in the time period when it is imposed, you will see that you're going to find less people dying. And that's what everybody wants to gloss over who criticizes it. At the end of the day, I keep on repeating myself, we could argue about whether it is constitutional all day. We could argue about it being a political tool, which I don't agree with. I don't see any relevance. It's just a good rhetoric, talking point. There's something to make things seem interesting, but there's nothing to support it being a political tool.
All right, I saw the Prime Minister said quickly that gangs are infiltrating the state, in fact trying to impact policy. What do you make of his comments in light of the need again for the SOEs?
No, so I will say this. The heavy is the head that wears the crown. The Prime Minister is the man that is wearing the crown, and the Minister of National Security and those who work for him, they are the ones with the information. I will not be disrespectful to the Prime Minister or the Minister of National Security because they have the information. All we are saying is when you come to the table, like I have many criticisms about the regulation and the powers that's given to the least among them in the JCF and the JDF. There's issues with that. But if he says that he has information, he hasn't given the opposition the information, and the public has no knowledge. So we cannot go back to Plato's cave and look at shadows on the wall and hope that he is right. We are gone past that. It's not an authoritarian. This is a democratic society, a free and democratic society, and the Constitution sets out. So it's not what he feels, and we need to come together as a nation to fight crime, and the SOEs are a waste of money.
All right, we definitely need to continue this discussion, but I'm being told we're out of time. A very fiery discussion here with Dr. Jason McKay, noted criminologist and attorney at law, ISAT.
So clearly, the government is using the states of emergencies in an improper way, and they are overstepping their boundaries. But of course, they were able to use the pretext of crime to do that. And in fact, the SOEs have been a way of siphoning millions of dollars away from what they should be doing into other areas. I can assure you, in a few years, you will learn of the depth of the corruption and how many millions were stolen from us using this tactic. But let's put it in stark contrast with the reality on the ground. We've spent millions and millions of dollars, billions actually, on crime using the states of emergency to try to solve the problem. But how well have we done? I want you to look at the reality. I have the numbers here, okay? One of the ways to measure how bad the situation is in a country in terms of homicides or murders is to look at the statistics, as in the number of murders per 100,000 people in your country. So you take, for every 100,000 persons, how much murders do you have? That is the international statistics that is used. So in Jamaica, that number from 2015, let me tell you the numbers. In 2015, we had 41 murders for every 100,000 Jamaicans there is. In 2016, that number went from 41 to 47. So from 41 per 100,000 to 47 per 100,000. In 2017, that number went from 47 to 56. So a major jump in 2017. Now remember, Andrew Holness took office in 2016. Okay, so since he has taken office in 2016, the murder rates jumped up astronomically from 47 per 100,000 to 56 per 100,000. And then it went down suddenly in 2018 to 44. So 44, which is still higher than 2015, which was 41. And then in 2019, it went from 44 up to 46. And then in 2020, under COVID, it went down slightly from 46 to 45. So that's one less murders per 100,000. And then in 2021, it jumped up from 45 to 49. Remember, in 2015, before he took office, it was 41. After he took office in 2016, it is 47. By 2021, it is 49. So absolutely no change. So, well, it did change. It got worse. So over the entire period of his reign, from 2016 to 2021, he has recorded an increase in murders over the time that he has been plaguing us with states of emergencies. Now in 2022, so far we are at 46 already, and the year isn't finished yet. Let me show you those numbers graphically on screen so you can see clearly what I'm talking about. Now, you may not, some people don't like graphs, so you may not be, pretty comfortable with this, but let me see if you will be okay, taking a look at this. So here we go. Here's a graph of the murder rates in Jamaica over the years. So if you look at this graph carefully, you should see that in the 1990s, we were between 20 and 25, so 22.48 murders per 100,000. By 1995, we were at 30. By the way, this is under the PD. By 1997, we are at 40. And then we drop in 98, we drop in 2000, we drop, we're back up in 2001 to 42. And then we went down in 2002, we went down in 2003, and then we're back up to 50 per 53.98 per 100,000 in 2004. And 2005, we're at 60, which is really very, very high, 2005. Then we were 48.65 in 2006. This was all PNP. JLP came back in office again. You see no real, right? We have gone into we're 57.22. Then we're 58.2. Then we're up to 60.2. Then we started to drop in 2010. We dropped to 51.4. 2011, when the JLP lost, we were at 40.09. Then we have 2012, 30.77, back up to 42.0, down to 34.95, then up to 41.82. Then we're into Mr. Oldness is 46.5, up to 56, down to 43.92, being off at 45.45, and down to the 44.95 range. And in 2020, at 46. If you look at the overall trend of this graph, apart from the ups and downs, you see a trend. And the trend, so overall, we're going up. The trend line is up, up, up. We might have spikes, big spikes. We might have some big drops like down here, big spikes like up here. But overall, we're coming from here. So from 1990 until today, 32 years later, our murder rates are on a trajectory of up, 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 up. That is where our murder rate is trending. And the question is, why? Why is it that our government is unable to fix the problem? After 78 years being in charge of our government, why is it they're unable to fix the problem? Let's show you one more chart. This is going to really sink in for you. One more chart. It's going to sink in really hard. Let's take a look at this. So we'll settle in your mind the fact we have one of the worst government on the planet. This chart shows you, let me see if I can make it as big as possible here for you. The countries in order of their murders per 100,000 population. It's showing you murders per 100,000. This chart shows you up to 2020. All right? Hasn't changed much since pretty much the same thing. Here you're seeing Jamaica 44.94, ahead of Honduras, South Africa, Mexico. Can you imagine? We're ahead of Mexico, St. Lucia, Belize, Colombia, Dominica, Guyana, St. Kitts, Bahamas, Puerto Rico, Barbados, Grenada, Namibia, Panama, Costa Rica, Antigua, Dominica, Ecuador, Russia, Paraguay, the US, Cabo Verde, Mongolia, Argentina, Chile, Tunisia, Latvia, Lithuania, Kenya, Kazakhstan, Estonia, India, Mauritius. It's just endless. Look at this. All of these countries are less than us. These countries are 0.9. You know, let's find here Qatar, 0.417. Singapore. Look at where Singapore is. 0.171. That got independence the same. They have a murder rate of 0.171 per 100. We have a murder rate of over, right now in Jamaica, today, before the year is ended, we're at 46. But remember, we're coming from 2 years ago, we were here. So listen, we were here 32 years Dominica. 32 years ago, we were at Dominica and Brazil. Yeah? And 32 years later, we are #1 in the world for murders per 100,000 persons. That is incredible. That is absolutely incredible. Why is it? I'll show you why it is. Watch this video and you'll see how a government that cares, a government that's in charge, a government that has a plan, a government that considers your life, your safety, your environment to be one that they need to care about. Watch carefully how one country, a small country, a country that got independence the same time as us, with less resources than us, more problems than us, how they were able to create a very, very low homicide rate of 0.17. Watch this now and learn. Let us learn from this. Let us learn from a small country that is 1/15 our size and which has a population twice our own, and how they have been able to so effectively deal with this challenge.
7 reasons why Singapore's crime rate is so low. Talk about Singapore and their crime rate will almost always be mentioned. Unlike other countries, including those nearby, the crime rate in Singapore is so low that the country is considered one of the safest in the world. In fact, it is so safe that if people leave their stuff in the middle of a busy shop or restaurant, they will likely still find it exactly where they left it. People are so complacent about their safety that it is not an issue for both locals and foreigners alike to walk down an empty street during odd hours at night. Being mugged or harmed is the least of their worries. Of course, no country has a zero crime rate, and Singapore is no exception. However, what is undeniable is that it is extremely low. We will explore some of the reasons why this may be. Number 1. Full enforcement of their laws deters people from committing crimes. Locals and foreigners alike tread carefully in Singapore and avoid committing crimes, as they know they will be easily discovered once they do so. Unlike in other countries where you can get away from petty crimes by being apologetic or slipping some bills on the greasy hands of officers, doing so is no dice in Singapore. No one is definitely above the law here. Number 2. Self-discipline is key. Singaporeans are definitely more aware of their actions, and they make sure that what they do is legal. They know that doing the wrong things, even what they consider small things, will likely result in being fined, ending up in jail, or worse. Since young, discipline has been heavily ingrained in them, so it comes naturally for Singaporeans to be law-abiding citizens. Corporal punishment is even seen as an acceptable way to instill discipline. That's why caning is so commonplace, and even children are caned because they know it will teach them why being disciplined is very important. Discipline is vital and as natural as breathing for them. Number 3. Visibility of cameras and law enforcement officers makes people more conscious of their actions. Like any other country, CCTV cameras are installed all over Singapore. However, these cameras are only aids for law enforcement. That's why in most countries, solving crimes takes time because law enforcement is minimal. Singapore is different. The abundance of CCTV cameras in nearly every corner, plus the full enforcement of the laws and reliable enforcement officers, makes it easy for criminals to be caught in the fastest possible time. The people know that there is nowhere for them to hide should they choose to commit a crime, so they follow the laws. They know that someone is always watching them closely. Number 4. Harsh penalties and prison sentences play a big factor. The consequences of committing crimes and strictness of their laws has made Singapore infamous worldwide. Where else can you find a country where bringing chewing gum will merit a fine of around $1,000, even as a first-time offender? Littering will cost the offender hundreds of dollars, jaywalking can land a person a prison sentence, and vandalism a severe caning. Worse crimes, like bringing in and consuming drugs, even before arriving in the country, can result in a death sentence. Number 5. Citizens take it upon themselves to report crimes and track down criminals. Most people tend to turn a blind eye when crime is happening out of fear that the criminal will get back at them. Not so in Singapore. Singaporeans take it upon themselves to report crimes or sightings of wanted criminals because they know that the officers will immediately respond to their feedback. Neighborhood watches are prevalent all over the country. They don't fear retaliation from these criminals because they have full faith in their country's robust legal system. Number 6. Most people are well paid. It has been proven that poverty is a major reason why people find themselves in conflict with the law. Since businesses in Singapore pay their employees well, this deters them from committing crimes. They have no need to resort to doing illegal things because their earnings are more than enough to get by. There's hardly any reason for them, money-wise, to commit crimes. Number 7. The people are educated from a young age to follow and respect the law. As mentioned, discipline plays a large part in a Singaporean's life, even when young. It is common for children to be taught about the laws, basic etiquette, and consequences of committing crimes. It is also widespread to practice corporal punishment at home and even in schools to make sure children know that there is a consequence if they should do something bad. Learning these things at a young age will ensure they carry these lessons all of their lives. To sum up, the crime rate in Singapore is low because of the combination of these factors: effective and strict enforcement of laws and cooperation of the people. Looking at it, any country can be as safe as Singapore as long as everybody willingly cooperates. While the deterrent for committing crime is mainly fear-based, it cannot be denied it is effective. This is why even foreigners who are traveling for a short visit are also willing to cooperate. They know that in Singapore, every wrong move will be dealt with swiftly and accordingly.
What we have in Jamaica is the reverse. We have a situation where the laws of the land are not applied equally to everyone. Some people have more rights than others. We have a situation where the Prime Minister can direct the police to deal with people he wants to be dealt with, as opposed to the police dealing with everyone who has broken any law in the society. We have a country where the people are not educated properly. Our education system is a farce. It doesn't work. It doesn't instill a proper understanding of law and order in our children. It does not instill discipline in our children. It does not bring out the best in our people. And very importantly, our economy doesn't work. Our economy is a low-wage economy. It's an economy that is a master-slave-driven model that keeps most Jamaicans poor and concentrate wealth in the hands of a few. The leadership of Singapore recognized the importance of fully developing our human capital. So they make sure that their people are highly educated, and they make sure that their people are highly paid, because once you're highly educated, you will be highly paid. They made sure that they have a very strong free market economy that is very robust, where government does not get in the way of the citizens starting, creating, and building businesses. In fact, the government facilitates and helps. So in Singapore, they have many employment opportunities. They have many high-paying job opportunities. So people can see a future for themselves following the system. Yeah, but in Jamaica, we don't do that. In Jamaica, of the last 78 years, the two major parties have designed and developed a very corrupt environment where people do not grow because of merit. They grow because of political connection and through corruption. Once you do that, you're going to have a country which is not amenable to law and order. You're going to have a very indisciplined country. You're going to have a country where too many people feel slighted and are not a part of the process of wealth creation and being able to prosper by their own initiative and hard work, but they're seeing where people are prospering through theft and corruption. And so you're going to have a breakdown in society. And so Jamaica is suffering from that breakdown. And the only solution, believe it or not, there's no other way around this. We cannot continue to ask two criminal gangs to lead us out of a life of crime. They do not have the credibility. They do not have the moral authority. They do not have it in their DNA to end what they have started. They have created this crime-ridden society, and they cannot get us out of it. The first step is for us to fire them. That's the first step to fix the crime problem. Once we fire them, we can reset the nation, because the people will now be able to take a breath, a sigh of relief, and now they have new leadership that is not tainted by the garrison and ghetto politics that they have pursued, and they can now follow a new leadership that is fully committed to eliminating crime from the top down. It is not a bottom-up problem. The crime is a top-down problem. We have to make sure we go after those who are creating the conditions of criminality, who are facilitating and fostering crime, who are enabling the importation of guns and all kinds of things. And then we have to make sure we're lifting the people up from the bottom by having a grassroots economy where wealth is quickly grown from the bottom up, where people who are at the so-called bottom of society can gain access to the resources, to the capital, to the education, to the training, to the support that they need. And we have to get rid of the excessive regulations that are stifling small businesses and protecting big business. The moment we unleash the entrepreneurial spirit of our people, not in words, but in deeds, by having the system of governance be designed to help the small man, to support the small man, to make sure he can see a way out, to make sure our students, when they are leaving school, they're confident that by applying themselves in school, they have a future in Jamaica and don't have to be looking to leave or looking to engage in scamming or some form of crime in order to have some level of accomplishment. We need to make Jamaica a place where you can accomplish things, you can achieve things by applying yourself to a decent process, a process of learning, a process of mastering skills, mastering competencies, and knowing that the system is designed to reward you for doing so. Not to reward you for being a part of any political party, not to reward you for being connected with any particular politician, not to reward you for being a part of any illegal or illicit or corrupt activities, but to reward you because you have followed the rules, you have followed the laws, you have applied yourself to your studies, and you have learned and developed mastery and competencies that you can now contribute to society, and society in return rewards you for that. And the more you contribute positively, the more you are rewarded. When we create a meritocratic society in Jamaica, that's when we're going to see real growth. That's when crime is going to go down. And when we have good laws, honest laws, transparent laws, unbiased laws that are unbiasedly applied across the board, from whoever think they're at the top to those who appear to be at the bottom. The laws must be applied equally and swiftly at all times to everyone. So the little man in the so-called ghetto shouldn't feel sad if him do something, we're going to deal with him. But if one of the minister them in the cabinet do something, he will get off, or it's going to be a long time in the courts and then it's going to disappear. No. We have to make sure every Jamaican feel as if the system is there to serve, protect, and respect them and respect their rights. And that is what the UIC is bringing to Jamaica. Our system of governance is going to hold everybody accountable and is going to give everybody an equal opportunity to achieve their maximum potential in this country. Singapore is a great metric, a great standard by which we can judge ourselves, because they came out of colonialism at the same time as us, with less than us, and they have done by far better than us. So don't let nobody tell you that we shouldn't compare ourselves. We must compare ourselves. We must benchmark ourselves against others who are doing well. And that is why we have benchmarked, the UIC has benchmarked ourselves against the Netherlands to make Jamaica the organic food capital of the world. And when we do that, that is going to create some 500,000 jobs in all kinds of areas. We're talking about agriculture, but agriculture impacts every profession you can think of. Yeah, so we're talking about engineers, we're talking about scientists, we're talking about administrators, we're talking about managers, we're talking about logistics, we're talking about trucking, we're talking about transportation, and also, so we are going to be having a spin-off economy by making Jamaica the world's greatest organic producer of food, and we're going to feed the world. We're going to become like a small country like the Netherlands. They're second in the world in food export. We are going to join them somewhere at the top of that ladder on the organic side. And while we're doing organics, we're going to be impacting our own people here, our own lives here, because we're going to shift Jamaica away from cancerous stuff and cause us to have a healthy environment, healthy food, healthy families, a healthy education system, an Afrocentric system that's going to build and expand the minds of our people to appreciate who we are and to be far more outstanding than we have been so far. So we're going to fix education. We're going to fix healthcare, right? We're going to move to a preventative model of healthcare, to a natural remedy model of healthcare, still having access to the now traditional method, which is not really traditional, the now many artificial methods that they have that are quite destructive to some degree. But we're going to now respect our own indigenous applications. We're going to expand our knowledge in terms of how to care for our bodies from the school level. Make sure our children learn their mind, their body, and personality, how to take care of themselves, and not to wait to become very sick and being in hospitals and so on. Now, we know that these two parties are going to be copying left, right, and center everything that we say. They're doing that every day. Just now, the Prime Minister is now trying to take over the One Jamaica. Yes, it's the UIC. One Jamaica, stronger together. That is us. Them can't take it. They're going to try though. But here's what. No matter what they say to you, ask them one simple question. Why didn't you do all that you're now saying you're going to do over the 78 years that you have been in power? Why haven't you used the last 78 years to do what you're now going to copy from the UIC? Why does it take the UIC for you now to be promising us to do all of these things that you have had every opportunity to do over the last 78 years? No, it's not 60 years. Them fooling you. The PNP and the JLP the JLP is 79 years old as a party. Look, them have their 79 conference. The first election in Jamaica was in 1944. That was 78 years ago, going 79 now. The JLP won that first election 78 years ago. The PNP was formed before the JLP because the JLP is a splinter party out of the PNP. They came out of the PNP. The PNP was formed first, and they have been around now for over 80 years. And between the two of them, they have been in self-government and independence 78 years. Know your history, my friends. Do not allow them to trick you. They have done that for a long time. It's 78 years that these two parties have been in the government seat of our country. And the Jamaica you see today, is the result of their 78 years of bad governance, bad stewardship, bad leadership, which has led to a bad condition for Jamaica today. Everything that is important in a country, they have failed on. Everything, not just one. They have failed on education. You see it every day. They have failed on infrastructure. You see it every day. They have failed on the economy, on the dollar, on inflation, on job creation, on wages. They have failed. They have failed on healthcare. Completely failed. They have failed on developing the culture of our people. Look at the social degradation we're suffering. They have failed by forcing the majority of us out of Jamaica to become economic refugees in other people's country. Look at Singapore. Singapore has 6 million people today, roughly. Today, if we had not forced out many of our people as economic refugees, Jamaica would have about 7 million people in Jamaica today. Jamaica is able to hold 90 million persons if you use the measurement of how much Singapore has based on its landmass, how much people them have. Singapore is 1/15 our size and they have 6 million people roughly. So we can hold 90 million if we have the same level of density as them. So we have run away our brains. We have caused the majority of our well-thinking, bright people to be living overseas, contributing to the development of other people's country because our government, no, not we, the two parties that have usurped authority in our country, who have taken over our country, those two parties have so mismanaged our country, have so depreciated our country, that the vast majority of our people live overseas. And the vast majority of our brightest people live overseas. And they have caused a higher concentration of persons who were not fully academically and technically developed to be here. And then that creates an imbalance in the society whereby we have a gradual increase of some very unfortunate social behaviors. I'll give you one quick example of how that failure of governance has affected us. You see the Prime Minister now wanting to clamp down on the taxi operators that they've given many tickets, whole heap of tickets. But what they fail to tell you and what you need to understand, those tickets are fraudulent because they created a policy and conditions that brought out the worst in our taxi operators, the worst in our public transport operators, the worst in our bus drivers. They brought it out. Now, they would like us to believe that these people are just indisciplined and bad. No. They have created the conditions. They have designed the policies. They have set the system so that it brings out the worst in us. And then they legally extort us by finding us and charging us. How many of you, when driving your vehicle, for example, find yourself swerving out of potholes, getting mad and angry on the road because of how improperly it was designed and managed and maintained? Yes, the system is designed to bring out the worst in us. And when the worst comes out, then they seek to punish and penalize us instead of taking responsibility for their contribution to the situation. If we want our country to be of a certain order, we have to have the leadership and we have to have the system to bring that out. And we do not have the leadership in those two parties, and we do not have the system of governance that we need as a country. So the UIC is going to provide us the leadership and the system to fix Jamaica. And the only way we can do that is if you become more knowledgeable, more aware, and decide once and for all that you are going to own this party. I'm talking to you wherever you are, anywhere you are in the world. Once you're a Jamaican or the child of a Jamaican, you must own the UIC. And the way to own the UIC is to join it, volunteer in whatever way you can, and donate. If all of us join the UIC, go on the website uicjamaica.com and join today. And if all of us donate even $1, $5, $10, then we will have enough money to take back our country. We can't win election without money. It's impossible. We cannot win an election without money. But because we have chosen not to take money from those who want to control us, and by extension control the country, then we won't have enough money unless we get it from the people. And we have chosen to build a party that is built by the people, for the people, and of the people. The two other parties are funded and owned by the PSOJ. And so they have been doing the things that matters to the PSOJ. They've been doing the things that matters to their foreign masters because they also give them grants and loans and stuff that they feel they need to work for them. You need to have a party that works for you. The UIC is that party. The United Independence Congress is the party that works for you, that is owned by you, and will always defend you. And so we're here to represent, to work for, and to ensure you have a Jamaica that is safe, that is clean, that is orderly, a Jamaica where every one of us can live, earn, and retire with dignity. That's why we say one Jamaica, and we're stronger together. So until next time, have a good night, and please go to the website now and join, volunteer, and donate for a new and better Jamaica. Take care until we talk.